Welcome to My Bloody Website, the show where we talk all things online for small and medium business owners and executives who still refer to their bloody website. I'm Daryl King.
And I'm Edmund Pelgan.
Happy New Year, Edmund.
Happy New Year to you, Daryl, and to all of our listeners.
Yes, to everyone that's been supporting us at the end of 2017. Thank you very much. It's January the 11th, 2018. Just to put a date around this so people understand it in the context of history, because we're going to keep this thing going. It was an interesting 2017. How was your 2017, Ed?
It was good. It got through a lot of stuff, and obviously it presented a lot of new opportunities as well for my own business as well as clients' businesses as well. And there's a lot of change happening, which is quite fascinating, which I know we're going to talk about today. So what about yours? How did your year go?
My year was pretty crazy. I guess it was the first year after I got rid of the hosting business or sold it on and basically restructured my whole business. But yeah, crazy busy year. A couple of books written.
Yeah, I was about to say that. You became a published author.
Yeah, got this podcast going. Like you, working with some great clients, been doing some really cool things. The end of the year was pretty nuts. But good times, I think. Good times. And my vacation is nearly over. We're recording this on vacation, but a couple of days and be back into working for 2018, because in Australia, we like to take the whole of summer off almost. And,
unbelievable. I'm actually quite excited because this year, I mean, there's a lot that I think people need to be aware of. And I guess that's the whole purpose of today's episode, right?
Yeah, it is. And so this is episode 9, and we've listed it as 5 things you need to plan for in 2018. And look, our target audience for this podcast has always been small and medium business owners. Now, small doesn't mean small turnover necessarily. Small means smaller number of people. You could be a solo entrepreneur. You could have a couple of helpers, 3, 4. Yeah, medium is obviously bigger. You might have 20, 30 staff. You might be turning over $5, $10 million a year or more, but you're not tens of thousands of employees. You don't have 800 employees.
Yeah.
Those sorts of organizations tend to have teams and resources. So our target audience that we're appealing to and that appear to be loving us and supporting us and giving us great feedback are those people that are anywhere from that one person up to 20, 30, 40 in their company. Yeah. And we want them to be taking more courageous and professional steps forward with their online marketing. Correct?
Right. Absolutely. And I think it's really important to point out too that, small is, it's more a focus on the fact that they can take action quickly, right? They can make a decision quickly without the bureaucracy. And so some of the things that we'll point out today, they'll think, crap, I haven't even thought of that, and they'll be able to ask the right person, figure out what they need to do, and then take action. And that's an important thing, right? You're not constrained by the bureaucracy of a massive organization.
And one of the things that dawned on me, we're on vacation, and I spoke at a meeting before Christmas, and it was like, everyone's talking about going on holiday. Everyone's talking about being away, but your business doesn't have to be. And in the old physical world paradigm, if the business shuts for holiday, no one answers the phone. No one does those things. If you're selling products online, if you have as much virtual business as you do physical offline business, there is no holiday period in theory. And particularly if you sell, for example, the books is a really good example, because I don't mail the books out. I don't sell them directly. They are sold through channels, distribution channels. And I was at a Christmas function and a Christmas thing, and talking to people about the printed version of the book. It's print on demand. I don't print 5,000 of them and store them in the back of the house or in the office and then mail them out. They are printed singularly when people buy them and distributed from Amazon or other locations. And the ebooks sell. Now, I can tell you over my vacation, I tweaked a few pricing things. The books sell like 24/7, 365 days of the year. And I think that's something that people should be thinking about in 2018. And we're going to go into a whole bunch of things, but your business doesn't need to shut down when you're not there. How can you create opportunities? Can you automate inquiry responses so that while you're away, that it puts people through some steps and they can use a bot, right?
It's funny you mentioned that, because on Christmas Eve, I had a tree up the road fall down and knock out the power. And when the power came back on, my primary air conditioning unit in the center of the house was on the
Oh, no.
fritz, right? So here in Australia, I think Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, we hit 36 degrees. That's Celsius. It's freaking hot. And
Yeah.
and I spent a good morning Googling for a local air condition provider to come and fix this air condition. And it was amazing. The number of people that just didn't have a system in place to cater for those off-peak calls. And most of the businesses had private mobiles, and guys were answering the phone saying, "Whoa, crap, I'm off on holidays until the 8th." And hadn't given much thought to it. You know, they were still taking these calls from potential customers. The websites didn't say that they were shut down, things like that, right?
Okay, well, stop there. There's a really, really important thing. Make a note when we talk about the fundamentals later on. But, you know, like Google My Business, we've talked about it in an earlier episode. You've talked about their website, you know, not going in and updating their hours to make it obvious, you know, like what's going on.
Anyway.
Oh,
so what are we...
Yeah. Well, but those are really important things. Yeah. The flip side is there's a really good opportunity in that in holiday marketing, because if 90% of the air conditioning guys or the carpet cleaning guys or whatever are on holiday, you could be running your ads targeting, we're open all holidays, all vacation period, all through Christmas, New Year,
absolutely,
whatever it is, we're open round the clock. Call us and get right to the top. Everyone else has paused their ads. It's a great opportunity.
And here's another example too. I also discovered a giant tree next to my house that's filled with termites. And so I went to Google and I started researching. I'm the customer, right? I'm a potential customer of these termite guys. And I Googled everything that, termite provider, termite testing, all this sort of stuff. And one thing that struck me was I landed on people's websites and I was confused, right? And the websites didn't answer this question that I had in my head. And only one single website answered it. And I landed on the homepage and it said, "Have you just discovered termites near your house?"
Perfect.
Yes.
Yep.
Step 1. Step 2, call us and we'll come and do an assessment. Step 3, then we'll quote on how to address it. But everyone else was like talking about their custom termite solution and all of this stuff that I didn't know what the order was as the customer. And that was an interesting observation for me. We see it. We actually go through this all the time, but it was interesting as a customer over Christmas. The websites didn't help me.
Yeah. Well, okay. So we're going to do 5 things today that we want to talk about, and there's 2 towards the end, and maybe we'll recircle back on that because they're really important. And that's making more of your platform and refocusing on the fundamentals. So
Agreed.
The 5 topics today we want to talk about. We want to talk about mobile. We want to talk about voice search. We're going to talk about we've said Amazon, but let's talk big retailers coming into your backyard or smarter offering, competing with the big guys, because it's not just necessarily Amazon itself.
Yeah.
And we've got changing social reach within making more of your platform and refocusing on fundamentals. So we're going to talk about that. So let's go into mobile. So I bet when you were searching for these people, you weren't in your office there on your desktop. You were in the house. It's hot, Dad. What's going on? You were on your mobile phone, right?
It was all done on this baby, right? Browsing around, Googling, trying to make sure, I'm this is the industry we work in, and I test and try to see how customers are serving me, right? So
okay.
Yes.
Well, so there's point number 1 for everyone is in 2018, if you haven't done it already, you've got to be mobile first. You've got to think mobile first. And there are a couple of pointers. Maybe I'll explain what I mean by mobile first. Mobile first isn't just, or maybe people come to my site first on mobile. Mobile first should be the way you think about your online marketing. Because,
as the data shows, most of the searches now are on mobile devices, the majority of Google searches.
I mean, and mobile isn't just a phone. So when we use the term mobile, I mean, it's almost like other devices. There are people walk around with, connected watches and fridges and Google Homes and all these things. So there's no screen on a Google Home or an Amazon Alexa. There's no screen. There is no, but they are accessing your data. And we'll go into that when we talk voice search and things like that.
Yeah.
So being mobile device ready, thinking first, if it comes to that point about even the topic that's on the website, you had a problem you needed solved, and the site that you went to obviously thought about how that would be found, understood, and used. and really what your needs were. And mobile first, to a large degree, just reinforces that, because if you think about how something will be on a mobile device or on a fridge or on a voice search, you should be way more focused on the content and how it solves the query or the problem than pretty pictures and big wide design.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, what do you see it? Or what's the one thing that you see people come to you and they say, "Oh, I've taken care of mobile, Daryl. My site's mobile responsive." What do you say to that?
Well, there's lots of things. I got to say one thing before that. Most people, when they get a designer to do any design work, approve and make decisions of a desktop design.
That's right.
And right, so some get mobile designs done in the design process, but a lot of times the design at the end is that, here's what it'll look like on mobile, and people check that later. So the first thing is, an answer to your question is, was this designed for multiple devices from the start?
Right.
Did you design it around mobile? But a lot of things I see, people go responsive, and you go, yep, everything collapses, and that's the term, right? So if you've got a large site and the breakpoints where the site breaks get fixed, it collapses down. So whether it's you might have a large screen, and people don't even think about this as well. Laptops aren't necessarily the same resolution by default as a large screen. The sizing is different. So each of these sizes come down, and so now we're getting down to things like this. How does it respond? It's not just about, it's responsive, it works on mobile. That's the first bit. That's the...
But won't they just say, hey...
show. How does it display? Can I touch it? So let's think of a guy that's, maybe he's the guy fixing air conditioning. And I'm being gender specific here. Maybe it's a girl. But maybe this guy is 54 years old. He might be big built. He's been a tradie all his life. His finger's twice the size of mine. And on this little device that his loving kids got him for Christmas, that's too friggin' small. His business might have bought it. He's trying to touch that tiny text link mixed in with all those other text links that it look really cool and sexy on desktop. And I can't get to it. And I'm doing this and I'm pinching. That's not, the moment I've got to do anything like that, that's not mobile first. That's not mobile first.
So how, as a business owner, and I'm going to a web designer, what do I do? How do I think mobile first when it comes to this? Because the web designer is going to come to me and say, do you like this theme? Do you like this design? So how do I, as a business owner, make sure that, mobile first? Do I ask him to design a mobile only theme? I mean, what's the go?
Well, I think so. And I think you should be day to day using your website on a mobile phone. You should be using your competitors on a mobile phone. And as a habit, the first place you should try searching for anything, and we'll talk about this with voice search and other things as well, use your mobile device. So even if you're sitting at your desk and you're writing up stuff and you typically click on Google, my suggestion would be pick up that phone, use that for your searching, because it is different, and then see it. Then if you're getting a design done or you're talking to your marketing person or whatever, don't go, oh, I like that site there, I don't like that. Go, let's get it designed up. Think about the question you want to deliver. Think about your content now. You can draw it on a bit of paper, right? So if you pick out your bit of paper and you go, it's A4, you draw a skinny column, and those people on the podcast can't hear this, but in the video, a skinny column, and then try and fit your website elements in there. Like just rough draw them in there. You go, well, that doesn't even make sense. How would I click on the button? How would I find what we do? But go to your designer and say, design me a mobile first design.
All right. I want to ask you a question, because that's all the stuff on the site as well. But I know you've got a lot of exposure to the mobile space because you're doing a lot of work with people in the mobile technology space. Are there changes that you see in the search results and the way people access mobile content that you think that business owners need to be aware of? And you know what I'm talking about, right? The search results sometimes on a mobile device will be different with carousels. You know what I mean? Yeah. So what does that mean for the business owner? What do they do? How do they make sure that their images and products appear in the different content pieces in search?
Well, this will come back to when we talk about the fundamentals, Ed. And I mean, obviously, this is your area as much as anyone else's. we're starting to talk search optimization for mobile. But look, we know in 2018, mobile first indexing is going to hit the market, and they're thinking about it completely different. And I think that we'll step into the next one soon about voice search.
Sure.
Because that comes a lot from mobile devices, but it's also now coming from peripheral devices, hey Google, blah, 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 blah. Hey Siri. That a mobile device has got a GPS in it. That's the fundamental difference. Okay. It's a trackable device. So in general terms, most people have that turned on because they're using maps and all the rest of it. So when you're doing a search for anything, it already knows where you are, what you're doing. Okay, it knows the location. And we know statistically, historically, that the types of queries that have been done are things like near me. So you could have, if you were searching on a mobile, by default, it was looking near you. In voice, that would, talks about that. But you said, hey, I want air conditioning on your device. It goes, well, we know he's in this spot here on the sunny coast. Let's find businesses around him by default, because Google thinks that's contextually relevant. Yeah. So if you were going to Sydney tomorrow and you wanted to find someone in Sydney, you might put Sydney in there. That will help it understand. But otherwise, it's finding search results near you. It's also giving you a whole lot of other data, like you said, like products results, like rich text data, knowledge graph data, carousels of news articles, and all the rest of it. So, and maybe the key thing there is you can answer, how are people going to get relevant ranking when? And Cindy Crum from Mobile Moxie talks about this a lot, that most rank trackers talk about, positions 1 to 10, that's the first page. We talk about things like above the fold and old terms like on desktop and all the rest of it. The reality in a mobile search is what's really relevant is if you broke the results screen up into thirds. Top third, middle third, bottom third. Which third do I show in? Because the top third could be entirely non-organic results. So Ed, how do people help stay in the game in that context?
Yeah, I mean, you first things first, what you said, you need to be familiar with what the search results look like on your mobile device, and then see what's in that real estate, and what's appearing in the search results will tell you what you need to do. If the top third is all ads, well, then it's telling you need to participate in the Google ad platform. So you're there at least, right? On mobile devices. And then the next organic results, if they're in there, you need to be in, if they're maps, you need to be in My Business. And you have to have all of those relevant features enabled on your pages and your content. And there might be specific searches relating to your industry, for example, where certain types of content appear. It may not just be the service page. I'm looking for a plumber. Let's say someone was searching for how to fix this, and let's say a bunch of videos appeared, right? Mm-hmm. Well, then there's an opportunity for you to get found at that point as well. So your specific industry, the specific search results that you see on the device will tell you to some extent what you need to do to be found. And right now, most people, I see it all the time, go to their websites, they all have the same stuff. Homepage, about me, service page, and they think that's it, right? And that's the end of the game. And the reality is they're missing a whole bunch of opportunities for discovery.
Okay, cool. I guess the other thing is, I think we've got an upcoming episode in a couple of weeks about analytics, all right? The basics of analytics. Because it's a common thing where people do or don't even have it on their website. But they do have it, don't look at it as a metric they ignore. I guess we consider it to be a much more important metric. But if we're talking mobile, you can start to understand how people behave with your site on a mobile. So you can actually look at the statistics. And I know you would do this if you were doing an audit. If we were looking at performance on a site to consider redesigning it and they had analytics, you'd start looking at, what's the bounce rate on mobile devices? How many pages of view? What's, and speed. We last week on our previous episode, we talked about speed on a website. It's so important on mobile that it's fast and the page is loading fast. So there starts to be a whole lot of reporting metrics, isn't there?
Yeah.
That people really need to take care of with mobile.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's important. They just need to start thinking about it and saying, well, I've got the analytics data here. Let's look at how many people, what percentage of our people came on from mobile devices. What did they do? Because the reality is mobile might just be an entry point into that search. People will do a search on a mobile device, and sometimes if it's a bit more complicated, they might go back and then do a search on desktop. But you need to be aware if that's the way that people search, right? For a lot of local businesses, it's going to be only on mobile. They'll do a search. There'll be a click to call button, but you need to understand that. And the way you do that is look at your analytics and filter it out by mobile traffic and then try to understand, okay, what are they doing? How's my website serving them?
Well, yeah. And it's not, this isn't new. Mobile search, mobile websites have been around a long time. We're in 2018, folks. So look, the reality is make your website work well on mobile. Yep. Make it the focal point of your online site development, how your site works. Forget your desktop optimization for now. You've done that to death. If you haven't done that, don't even worry about it for now. Get your mobile right. And I will say one thing. A lot of times you ask me what I hear. A lot of people come along and say, look, no one reads on mobile. Cut out all the stuff on mobile. So the fundamental question is, if you don't need it on mobile, you don't need it on desktop. And in my opinion, that is the biggest error of judgment people make, which is that they say people don't want it on mobile. It's a load of rubbish. People read books on mobile, Absolutely. Watch videos, watch movies, and a lot of these things, the big phablets, aren't really what I call a mobile phone anyway. Right. They're almost a tablet.
And what you just said there, taking content away from the mobile version is going to be death. Google is going to be ranking based on mobile content, right? Okay. So don't go taking content off your site just because you don't want it to appear on the phone, right?
Yeah, and if we go to mobile first and you're hiding content on mobile and keeping it on desktop, like you said, it's death. You're going to ditch, and your relevance is going to be less. Okay, so that wraps up the first point, mobile. We talked about mobile. We always talk a lot about mobile because we think it's so important. So we were talking about voice search a lot in our mobile because obviously there's a big correlation between it. I'll just talk a little bit more about voice, what voice is. So on your phone, you got Siri. If you're an Android, you might have OK Google. And then if Alexas or Google Homes, these sorts of devices where people ask questions and get information back from the bot, from the artificial intelligence, the AI. That's what we're talking about in regards to voice search. Now, a specific part of that. So I think that overall, people are using voice activation items a lot. Hey, read my latest text message, or what's the weather today? But I mean, I think do you know what the level of voice search is?
So Google, there was some data that came out last year that said that of all searches on mobile devices, so searches on phones or tablets, 20% of all of those searches were done using voice activation. So it's telling you that these devices are, the faster and more powerful they're becoming. People are leveraging voice on all of these searches. So it's only increasing, right? So it was 20%. It's going to get higher. Yeah,
and we know how fast the explosion of mobile devices for general web use, exploded, how quickly that happened. So I would envisage in 2018 and early 2019 that we're going to see voice search just really explode. Yeah. Maybe it'll even double. I mean, that's how important it is, right?
Absolutely. And look, I saw some additional data that said that by 2020, right, the Internet of Things, all internet-connected devices, 75% of those devices are not actually going to be desktop, mobile, or tablets, right? So you think about that. What does that mean? That means Google Home devices. That means smart TVs, smart fridges, all those sorts of things will have
watches, all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Primary interface is voice. So think about what does that mean for you from a business perspective?
Well, and people should realize, like keyboards and mice are a really bad way to interact with things. They're slow, they're cumbersome. A lot of people can't do them. Most people can talk, right? Pretty well. Like the speed. And I've seen this with some colleagues, authors moving to dictation devices as things like Dragon have got so much better that they're able to produce their books in half the time that it would take to type them out.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Because, the first draft where you're just getting the story out, then getting it, then editing it with a keyboard and mouse. It just allows that volume to be done. And it is a much quicker way to do anything. I mean, we convey so much more information through a podcast than having to write a blog.
So here's a question for you. If interaction with devices by voice is going to be increasing, what does that mean from a business owner, from a website, from a content perspective? Does it mean I have to change my content? How do I prepare for that?
Okay. So when we later on, we're going to talk about looking after your platform, the fundamentals, and I think this will tie into that really, really importantly because people are often handing off what they do online to other people, other providers. But one of the key things is, and then there's a book up on the top there, the sort of musty one called Persuasive Technology by a guy called BJ Fogg.
Yep.
And that's a really old book, but it talked in a lot of terms about how technology interacts with people and how difficult it is to interface with a computer. That, you know, like when we're looking at each other now on a video and talking, if you're sitting across the desk from someone or across the counter, you know, you can read the inflections that they have, the ways their eyes move, are they engaged or not? But you can't do that with a computer. But the way that voice will lead is that we'll start to be able to understand better the needs. You know, when someone lands on your website blind from typing in a URL, you don't know their intent. But if someone asks a question, it's like, I need to know if there are any air conditioning electricians open today, right? We know a lot about that, a lot more than someone just opened up your website. So there's a fundamental difference there. And that's at a real surface level. But if I ask really specific questions such as, what is the mileage of a Tesla X? What's the service options in Brisbane? Then Tesla goes, hang on a minute, we've got someone living in Brisbane that's really interested in this vehicle, rather than, they just landed on a page from a generic 3-word keyword search. Where can I get X near me? How much is Y? These things give a lot more information. So preparing for them is, I must write content that answers questions. And this goes back to the very beginning, all these early things is, we've got carried away making pretty websites, dynamic websites. Everyone's worried about one-page parallax scrolling versus multi-step checkouts, but we're not thinking about fully. Smart operators are the content and how people access the content and what that content is and how that will respond to people. And maybe that's the answer. How will my content respond to someone when read by a bot?
Yeah, and I think it's important too, everyone gets caught up with content and content marketing at the moment, thinking they need to do these really awesome, cool, generic blog posts. And the SEO industry's got a lot to blame for that. But the reality is fundamental content, right? Simple things like answering questions, simple things like providing directions to the nearest service center, simple things like providing support information about products and services. That needs to be on the site, and it needs to be accessible. It needs to be marked up in a way so that these voice agents can interact with your search engine and find your content and deliver that as an answer. It's that simple.
Well, and I've seen examples where people go overboard with their content because they see it as useful help to their customers. And I think if you think that way, if we're thinking mobile first, we should then be thinking customer centric, not business centric.
Correct.
I call it drinking your own bathwater. When you sit in there for too long and the marketing people have been in there, you use all those terms that you're familiar with, your customers don't get it. But this example was a venue where they had a Google map. Hey, here's where we are. But they also had a page of how to get to us, and they wrote out the instructions. If you're walking, if you're coming by ferry, if you're coming by this. So how can I get to this venue by ferry? They actually had the text written out. Now, one could presume that Google might interrupt that and deliver it from their own directions thing. But given that there's contextual content in there, not everyone's coming from Google. And there are numerous ways to interface with it in the future. That information is really, really useful.
Yeah.
You're thinking about questions people have. Can I walk there? Can I come by bus? Yeah, well, if you get to this bus station, it's a 1 kilometer walk, which on a hot 36-degree day will kill you. Whatever, right?
And that type of answer would probably come up as would appear in the search results as a featured snippet. Sometimes where you do a Google search and there is a big box at the top, which is a very specific answer to a very specific question. That's called a featured snippet. And there are ways that you can structure your site to try to make sure that your content appears as it. But the issue is the featured snippet is the piece of content that, for example, Google Home is using as the answer to a very specific question at the moment. So what you said, it's a combination of knowing how someone is going to use a voice search, on their phone, right, as it relates to your business, creating a piece of content that answers that question that they ask, having it on the site in a way that allows these voice devices to serve your content as the answer.
Yeah. And I guess that also goes, and content people will have to adjust their way of delivery to their clients, but they may already be well into that. But thinking about the way it's written conversationally rather than prose.
Yeah.
Like typically on a web page, we write this for reading. But now we have this challenge that reading and conversation are completely different. And a perfect example of that is the transcription service that we get done for the podcast. Right?
Yep.
And when I'm looking at that and editing that and bring it across, I use a tool like Grammarly, which does grammar correction. Now, the number of things that you and I say conversationally that are not grammatically correct from a written piece
Speak
of
for
content
yourself.
show up. They're all the red lines, right? Change this. Now, I don't edit those because it's a transcription of what we said. But that raises that question too. Not that we want to say, "G'day, mate," on our website and all that sort of stuff, but the level of the text that's provided, the content, and how we structure that and present that to answer the questions needs to be understood in a way that people would hear it better than just some lengthy statement.
Exactly.
That reads well. So there are other considerations there. I think most of us can get away with the words we write. The voice agent will deliver pretty well. But if we're looking to optimize experience, if we're looking to make it better, then that's where we're going.
And my other last tip, I guess, relating to voice is if you want to get familiar with it, go out and buy one of these devices, right? Google Home Mini is under $50 now in Australia. It's cheap as chips. Get one, stick it in your office, and just every time you need to do a search, talk to it and see what happens, right? Get familiar with how Google is trying to figure this out and what it's serving as answers. And then that'll give you some ideas and more inspiration about, okay, gee, how can I use this for my own business?
Well, and I'd top that off as well, which is a great point, is with your phone when you're driving, and we know you're not allowed to touch your phone and all the rest of it, which is so great. So don't touch your phone. Don't text while driving or any of those things. Stick it up on the console, have your headset plugged in or have Bluetooth through your car phone done. Start talking to it. So when you're driving along and you hear the beep, and text has come in, go, "Hey Siri," if you've got an iPhone, or, "Okay Google, read my last message." And it will read your last message. And then it will say, "Did you want to reply?" And it's a yes, no answer. You go, "Yes." And it goes, "What do you want to say?" And you go, "Oh, thanks for that. I'll call you later," or whatever. Or Edmund's messaged me and I go, "Well, I don't want to text." So I go, "Hey Siri, call Edmund." And it'll go, "Do you want to call a mobile or work?" And I'll say mobile, and then it will ring. Use the voice commands to do stuff. What's the traffic like heading into the city? And then get a response. "Oh, that didn't work. It didn't like it." Understand the queries that it can handle.
Yeah.
They're not perfect. They struggle. They struggle with a lot of conversational language and some accents, like my hybrid Kiwi accent. But use them and get a sense of the types of things that do and don't work. And you will be closer to understanding what you need to provide.
And it's going to get better. I mean, everyone rags on Siri and complains about how silly she is and whatnot. But I mean, this technology has been developing for 20 years. I think it was, early 90s when Apple created this concept of a navigator or something. I can't remember what it was, but it was very much an intelligent agent that you communicated with via voice search, and it would go and search the web for you. This stuff has been in development, and they've been thinking about it for 20 years, and only now has the technology caught up to it. This iPhone is so much more powerful than the one I had just 2 years ago. And in 2 years' time, the technology will be so much more powerful. They'll be smarter. I mean, it's going to come sooner than we think. And one day you're going to be able to have these great conversations with your phone that will just blow you away, right? So it's coming. Start thinking about it.
Cool. Okay, so there's a lot. So 2018 so far, mobile and voice search. So I think we want to touch on the next thing was the big guys coming into your space. Now, overseas audiences have had Amazon, UK, US have had Amazon for quite some time. Amazon landed just before Christmas in Australia, but they're not the only ones. And they, in different countries, different players are going to come into your market at different times. So this is how do you handle that? Well, things to think about it. And I think in 2018, what it signifies down here in Australia but it should signify to everyone, if you haven't already got it, is that your market can be disrupted at any time by someone else, and you don't even necessarily know how they're going to disrupt it in advance, right? And
yeah,
Amazon, we knew, like, anyone paying attention to anything about what Amazon had done and other online retailers, and think in Australia, for the last 5 years or so, big UK fashion stores were sending 747s full of packages of clothing, free shipping and the like, leading into Christmas, to Australia, dumping stuff and just having the couriers deliver them. They didn't have a store here. People buying the Boohoo and the Asus and all these people were just, they were testing the market out really easily, and then they brought stores here, and then they improved their logistics. But they were, hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars of product shipping in here without a physical footprint. And this is affecting local business. It's quite clearly affecting local business. It's quite clearly that all sorts of services have been affected over the years. And it started way back with offshoring of service workers. All of this stuff is going to keep happening. It's not going to go away. Technology is going to do some of it. Big players are going to be the others. So with Amazon coming to Australia, we knew it was going to affect logistics, pricing, offer, but it's not all bad, is it, Edmund? I mean, at the end of the day, it also creates opportunities because there were already big players here that were able to control the monopolies.
Absolutely.
And like small people were fighting them anyway without the same leverage. And sometimes the disruption creates opportunities for smaller businesses to compete with the bigger. So if we talk electronics, if you were a smaller store and you had people like the JB Hi-Fis and the Harvey Normans, and you really struggled on price against these people. So you had a good offering, and the biggest thing letting you down was logistics. There's an opportunity, right, with someone like Amazon coming to help you, isn't there?
Absolutely. I mean, and the key thing to remember is that the not all of the big players are going to be the same. Like Amazon coming to Australia is actually seen as a massive opportunity for a lot of smaller businesses because Amazon is another channel through their marketplace, right? So if they were a smart small business,
well, what do you mean by that? Explain what you mean by that.
Yeah, absolutely. So a channel is simply another way to get to customers. Some of your customers are on eBay. Some of your customers like to shop on Amazon. Some of your customers will only do Google searches and click on the ads, right? So there are different ways. And sometimes your business, multi-channel retail, you'll have a storefront, right? So some of your customers are walk by trade, some are only online, some might be regional. And you've got to think about, okay, how do I reach them and where do they shop?
So how does Amazon help those people?
Yeah. So Amazon has all of the infrastructure, right? The logistics, the technology, the platform to sell their own stuff. And as you know, they have managed to lower their costs of creating that infrastructure by allowing other businesses to sell on their platform through the Amazon marketplace. So if you're a small business owner and you have product that you sell on your shop as an e-commerce provider, then sign up to the Amazon marketplace, get familiar with the system and treat it as another way to sell your products to a different audience, right? So there's another opportunity for you there. I mean, you see it right now. There's 1,000,001 guys and ladies telling me how I can be a millionaire overnight through my Amazon riches, right? So there are opportunities there for everyone. That's what I'm trying to say, right? So from that perspective.
Yeah. And I guess that's the thing, that if you're thinking that your business is just going to carry on the way it's been carrying on, the point of this area of the topic, and we're probably going to talk about this the least of all the topics we're talking about today's session. This is an example of there are silver linings and there are big problems ahead in all industries, in all markets, that there are going to be opportunities if you keep your mind wide open, or you can be really defensive. So a key part to it is you need to understand technology enough. And by technology, I mean online tools. Because if you've never bought on Amazon and you don't even understand how Amazon works and delivers, understanding Amazon Marketplace is going to be really hard for you. And this is the same for eBay. But this is also by expanding your mindset, your business understanding. And I get it. If you're in the late stages of your business, if you've been in business for 30 years and you're maybe in your mid to late 50s and you're thinking about, I don't want to make changes and stuff. Think about what comes next. Think about the sellability of your business, or if you're handing it down through the family or staff are going to buy it out. You've got to be ready for you've got to keep your mind open, because your legacy is helping it being able to work in this newer marketplace.
Yeah, and I get it. It's frustrating sometimes, because like you said, you've let's say you've been in business for 10 years, and in normal business time, 10 years is a long time, and you've done it a certain way, and then these other players come in and they change it. They pull the rug out from under your feet. You're frustrated now. Stuff's being sold on eBay at half of your cost price. It's really frustrating, right? I get it, because a decent income has now it's being attacked on all sides, but nothing's going to happen if you get angry at it. And I'm looking at you, Gerry Harvey. You can't just complain and moan and bitch. You have to do something. And it may very well be a real big opportunity for you to reset and think, you know what, maybe there's a better life. Maybe there's a better business to be had by taking advantage of these opportunities and doing it differently. Maybe you can sell that shop, get rid of your lease, and go pure play online, or whatever that is. But you have to be open to it. And that's the thing. If you've got a closed mind and you're just going to get angry at all these players like Amazon and stuff, then you're behind the 8 ball. So that's not going to help you. I think you just have to take an open mind to it and think about, what is the opportunity from my perspective?
What do you got to love billionaires like Gerry Harvey that ran small mum and pop shops out of the marketplace years ago, now asking for government protection to stop people like Amazon. It's just the whole circle. But think about Blockbuster Video. Think about all, even Kodak, how these businesses that you would never have envisaged going away. Now, I just think it's an opportunity, right? See the opportunities. Maybe half of your product line is just unsustainable. So look for the stuff that you can do. Take your knowledge, do things with it. So point 3 for 2018, keep your mind open, understand your marketplace is going to be disrupted one way or another, or go and be the disruptor if you're really, really advanced, right? Find ways.
And I think the opportunity is there for the small guys, because as a small business, and I don't mean small as in size, as in mindset, you can make changes really quickly. A lot of the businesses that you see going bankrupt, Payless Shoes, Blockbuster, Foxtel pretty soon I reckon is going to be up the creek. They have momentum. They have an investment that they find really difficult to change. It's the old innovator's dilemma, right? They can see something happening over here, but our business is done this way, so we can't change. Small businesses don't have that problem to the same extent. You can change quickly. You can make a decision and say, you know what, I'm going to sell this. I'm going to change my business. I'm going to move in a different direction. It's all opportunities for you.
Yeah, and one of the frustrations I often get, and let's move from that topic into making more of your platform and understanding social reach and things like that. So we're going to talk about that concept. One of the things I see a lot is people don't make the effort. They're not doing a lot with their website. So they go, I just don't have time for it. I don't have time for it. But they're chasing, dead horses down blind alleys that used to work, right? I still do that because they don't have to put much effort into it. One of the key things that you have to understand is the people that make this work online do not set and forget. They do not hand the keys over to everyone else. They are across it as much as they need to be. Now, not everyone is sitting there coding their website, adding plugins, but they understand what they need. They invest in either the people to help them, or they invest the time in the content. They invest the time in improving what they're doing. So they might just invest the time as the business owner and going, 1 hour a day, instead of being checked into Facebook, I am doing mobile search. Now, everyone, being on Facebook for 2 hours is not part of the advice we said about using your phone all the time, right? But there is important stuff even in that if you do that on your phone, you will understand it is fundamentally different to Facebook on a desktop. But take the time and say, if I'm having a beer on the back deck or a glass of wine, whatever I might be doing, and I get up my phone, instead of going through my social channels, let's have a look at my website. Let's go searching for things. Let's really understand my competitors. Let's go and look up a parallel industry that's not really competitive, one of my suppliers. Let's see what their people are doing. Oh, I'd never even heard of this concept of XYZ, so go there.
That's right.
So making more of your platform. Platform is a term I picked up recently in the author space, but the way I see it is I've always talked about, in episode 3, we talked about your digital assets, and your fundamental digital asset is your website. Now, this is one of the few things online you actually own. Correct. Right? You own it. Even your domain name is a license. You own it for as long as you pay the money to renew that domain name. But your website, once developed, unless you got screwed over and are leasing it somehow, or you don't have the rights to it, you own. Now, okay, you might be running it on WordPress and that's open source, so you could argue that you don't fully do that, and that the ground is always shifting with that. There's always updates in that. But at the end of the day, you own it. You've invested in it. You've got your brand that you've translated over to it. It's got a look and feel and content. That stuff doesn't go away unless you remove it. So that's the one thing that you can absolutely guarantee you own. So that's part of what we want to say, is that the bedrock or the foundation of a platform that allows you to run your business in the modern marketing environment. And this comes up from the way people use social, and particularly Facebook. There are others that no longer kind of exist the same, but people put a lot of energy into Facebook pages and their time on Facebook. And people say, oh, I get all my business from Facebook. Same as we've heard, I get all my business from Google. Well, okay, that's dangerous. And it's dangerous. There's a term I've heard. I think you talked about one about owning the race course. I've heard the one about share farming. But Facebook's a little bit like share farming. Share farming being where, hey, I've got a big chunk of land. I'm going to lease out chunks of this land to different people to farm. So people go and farm on there. One guy might have cotton, one might have soybeans, one guy might be doing wheat, whatever they might be doing. Someone might have cows on there. Anyway, I get the lease money for the land, and these people make money off the product, the crops and the product that they're growing on there. But at some point I can look around and go, you know what? Soybeans just love this whole area. I'm going to go and become a soybean farmer on my own land. So I get rid of all these people leasing. The leases are up. No longer want them. I start planting soybeans, and I own the land. I'm taking all the profits off them. That person's now out of a business, right? They've got to go and find new land. They've got to start again, right? Their whole business has been completely, the rug's been pulled out from underneath them. And that concept of share farming is, if you build everything you've got, all your assets in Facebook, if the whole place your audience finds you, buys, interacts, signs up, likes, that is like share farming, because the rules keep changing. So going back to, where is your platform? Where's the foundation? If your website has all of your best content, has a newsletter tool to sign up and you use it, and has all sorts of your other assets embedded in it, and you use social platforms as distribution channels, not as the platform themselves, you are in a better place than relying on one channel or other. Agree?
Absolutely. So think of it as your website is at the center of everything, like a hub and a spoke concept, right? And all of these other social platforms are just merely traffic opportunities, to tell you the truth, because each one is different. Each one has a different segment of your audience or market in those places. But make sure you control and own that central website. Make sure it's optimized to turn a visitor to bring someone into your world, as it were, and then hopefully make them a customer, right? Because you're right.
I guess it's like, go.
No, if you build it on Facebook, and as you know, Facebook's changing the feed once again, right? Yes. And hiding all of your stuff, and so your organic reach is gone. I mean, that's gone already. It's a pay-to-play platform now. But ultimately, what if they change the rules? What happens when the big retailers and big businesses come into Facebook with unlimited budgets and start bidding up the prices like they did with Google back in 2006? Small businesses will not be able to afford to use the pay-to-play, right? And then you're cut out of that opportunity. So figure out, how do I keep them on my platform, get them on the email list, retarget them, whatever that is,
Yeah, and look, I think if you make an analogous to 15 years ago, people, heavily advertised in Yellow Pages, TV, radio. They did email, letterbox drops, and all those sorts of things. Now, that stuff still happens in certain areas, but a lot of that's moved online. I mean, Yellow Pages was like that. Whole page ads at the front of a section category by the big guys, and then that's why everyone came up with, their name was Triple A, right?
That's
or whatever. Because at least they would show up on the top of page 2, right? So people talk about people gaming and spamming Google. What's been going on way before search engines, right? That was, if you couldn't afford the budget for a full page ad, and then a half page and a quarter page, you were back in the generic listings. Then people use their name because they're alphabetically sorted. But Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat, all of these things are channels. They're distribution channels. And yes, we know that you build massive audiences. But if I'm an Instagram person And that's my whole audience. And Instagram suddenly just doesn't become as popular. I've lost everything. And, look, and I'll say this in the author community, I listen to a lot of podcasts, fiction and nonfiction. And the nonfiction people get it. They have websites because they build a product. They don't just write a book. But in the fiction, so many times I hear the fiction, I've got a website, I don't do anything with it, And they talk this concept of building platforms, but they only use their website for building their email list. And they forget that, that you've got to have this anchor point, and smart YouTubers, smart Instagram stars, people that are building audiences in other places get that they move to it. And we saw this in the gaming space. When everyone rushed in online gaming, we're putting games on Facebook and all the rest of it, particularly the guys, in the Keno and Blackjack and all these types of things and pokies. They couldn't, there was Facebook Cash and stuff like that they could do it. But the key win here was to get people out of the platform because Facebook was changing the rules and they literally were taking away the game market from the people that had built it. So they started to put it out and, that's when they all started building standalone apps and all of that stuff. So the advice here is the only platform, the only asset that you can fully control is your web presence, irrespective of the fact that not everyone will see your website. So we talked about voice search. So in the future, no one might physically be looking at the page, but they might be accessing your content. And okay, I'll step it. So here's a hypothetical situation which actually could happen right now. And I saw a video presentation from Compaq Computers, someone else that's pretty much long gone, over 20 odd years ago. And it had a platform, what we'd call what's those Windows Surface type environment. So it was like a flat screen glass thing sitting on the desk, and it had a concierge or a butler that was talking. This guy was moving around his sort of studio house office thing, and it was talking to everything. It's your mother's birthday in 3 days. You want me to order flowers, blah, blah. I know you've already got the present, but and yes, and from here, yes. And it was just talking back and forth, exactly like the Google Home and things like that now. But imagine that you walk in from the office, it's Friday evening, you walk into your house, you've turned on the lights, maybe with voice activation, maybe it's auto sensor. And you walk in, you go, hey Google, no one else is home. Where is everyone? Such and such is on their way back from university. Your wife's been delayed in traffic. She'll be home probably in about 25 minutes looking at her GPS, all this creepy stuff. But it's talking about it, go, okay, cool. Can you play the Rolling Stones for me? Sure. I'll start with this album. So suddenly there's sound, lights turning on the house. About 5 minutes later, it says, given that everyone's likely to be home in about 45 minutes and you normally have pizza, did you want me to contact Domino's for you and get your standard order? Sure, why don't you do that? And do you want soft drinks today or pop today? Yeah, I'll have that as well. Great. Ordered, I used your credit card, blah, 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 blah. Done. Now, that was a voice activation using either an app or a website to pre-fill in and put in your data, save. So it was using a website or an app without visually interacting with it.
That's right.
We call these things like headless browsers, right? Where this is how the voice stuff acts. It basically gets through this data without actually visually seeing it. So the thing there was, with your website, it may not be looked at, but it's going to get used. So build it, make it strong, and then smart channels. So if you write great content, put it on your website, share it on Facebook.
Yeah.
Share it on Instagram, share your great photos, draw them back, get them signing up to use newsletters. Email newsletters are still one of the most successful converting business online tools you can get. They still work, as do SMSs to a phone. The two things work really well at conversion for different industries, way better than random traffic.
Yeah, and it's important to point out that they work especially well when it's relevant and the context is right too, right? So we're not talking about spamming and scraping people onto an email list and spamming the crap out of them.
No.
Opt in, right? Really specific opt in to the right Jenny, your target audience, and they will respond really well to that stuff, right? And you've got them on your email list.
Convert that audience from the other place. So if you are building a massive audience for your fitness tribe and on Instagram, great. But make sure you're pulling them back, getting them involved in free offers or newsletter options or notify me. I mean, we do it quite simply with the podcast. Sign up on our website, and as soon as we publish the latest episode, it just emails you straight away. It's a form of it. Now, you may also get it in your app that you listen to podcasts on, but that's multiple ways of reaching out and making sure people get it. We're all busy. So that's, I mean, what else? I mean, from your side of the coin, the online marketing space, Ed, I mean, making most of your platform. Like, what does that mean in an SEO and an online marketing way?
I've gone through this year, and the last couple of years, actually, banging my head against different walls and learning as well, like everyone else, right? I think what's really important is that everyone is trying to do too many things for starters. We're getting attracted to platforms or opportunities that aren't really relevant for us. So I think when it comes down to making most of your platform, it's really understanding who am I here to serve. And I don't want to sound all woo-woo, but at the end of the day, I've got an audience that I can really help. Who are they? What are their problems? What are their needs? And then making sure that my platform is it serves them. It has the content. It's structured in a way that it helps them. And then making sure that the channels, the opportunities, that I participate in the ones where they are. So I think fundamentals is stop focusing. I mean, a lot of this hasn't changed, right? At the end of the day, it's a target customer. We know their needs and we serve them. It's just the platforms have ultimately changed. So, but today it's the website. It's our own website that we control. It's our content that we control. I think it's just getting back to the fundamentals and focusing on simplicity. And that impacts a lot of things too, from website speed to the amount of content that you need to create.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and obviously we're covering a lot of the specifics and episodes already about that. But yeah, so it's really, I guess point 5 of our list of things was refocusing on fundamentals in 2018. Yeah. Because I think you and I both see people that don't do this. So I guess that's what you were kind of saying.
Yes.
And it kind of highlights something which I think is really clear. And it's really clear when I'm messing around in Snapchat that so many of people that are my friends in the outside world, my people that don't work in the industry, they don't use Snapchat. Now, they're all buying people. So if I want to pick a subset of that group, and let's say these guys are 50-plus-year-old males that work in a mixture of both trade and professions, not one of them is using Snapchat. So in this big audience. So if their supplier, my whole marketing strategy for 2018 is Snapchat because I've heard that's the place to be, man. And they go hard at it. And then they come back, social doesn't work. Snapchat's just bullshit, right? That's because they're targeting the wrong, the wrong audience in the wrong place, the wrong time, all of those things, right? And that's what you were saying before, which is understand where your audience is.
Yeah.
And play to that, but help bring them out of it. I mean, refocusing on fundamentals. Actually make sure your online assets are strong. Your platform is strong. You do the work. You engage people to do the stuff you don't want to do. Like, say, I don't want to build links. Well, get someone quality to build links.
Look, to be honest, a lot of the work that I see that I'm planning for the next year is a refocus on the fundamentals. The offerings that I'm going to take to market are all about focusing on the fundamentals, because I've seen businesses where we fix the fundamentals and in 12 months time, they're if I'm just looking at SEO, their organic traffic is up, they're making more sales, and that's just one part of it. And don't forget, fundamentals is things with analytics, with your content. If you focus on the fundamentals in all these areas, they're all accumulative, and the increases add. You know what I mean? They're exponential in terms of the upside. So that's where I'm going for the new year. And I'd hope most businesses too would just get back to the fundamentals and stop being attracted by all of these weird opportunities.
Yeah. And maybe if they focus on the things that are coming, which is how the users, their audience is going to be interacting with them, that will drive them. But I think one of the things that I'm looking at is, a lot of people want a web presence and they want to update their web presence, but still the focus on content is really, really poor. Like, it's a hard game, I would imagine, being a copywriter, because a lot of people just don't invest in it. And it's one of the most important things. The content on an ongoing basis is so important. Like, just, and not blogging for blogging's sake, and not Facebook posting for Facebook's sake.
Yeah.
It's about what is going to engage with the people that I want to engage with. Seth Godin says, people like us do things like this, right? Talking about the audience. So if you're people like us, people that have houses and air conditioning, they do things like this, right? Yeah. So what is it that they are? What type of people are they, or what type of a person is it? Well, everyone. Well, that doesn't work. Do you want to work in multi-rise towers or just houses? Do you want to work from Sunshine Coast to the Gold Coast, or just in a 20-kilometre radius? Understand those people and what's different about them, what their needs are, and appeal to them, and start to think about how your content works for them. And that's a broader trade. You get into niche businesses that sell a particular line of clothing or electronic goods or some new software they've made. Quite often they're again all over the place. Well, I'm going to produce 12 infographics a year, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I've got articles going up, but the utility of them is pretty low. Like, correct. How do they do something that's going to end in results? How are they going to make sure that their website just runs fast? How are they going to make sure that when they share content, they draw people back to the website so that they can promote more things to them and get high visibility? And keep in mind, if you're in other channels, there is a gazillion other distractions there. There are competing ads that are targeting your product. There's their friends, lolcats, and all the rest of these things that are being shared. And a lot of channels don't offer much at all. That there's no other supplementary branding opportunity you can do. On Instagram, you can't put links in your posts. So you have to be clever and do things like, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, does, where every time he releases some new product, there's a link up in his profile.
Yep.
He just says, hey, look at my profile, there's the link to the product. Things like that, where it's hard to do. But one place you can control back on your website is get it right. Like, make it work right, make it look right, make it answer the question like you started the episode.
That's it.
So that, hey, I want to talk to these people. Live up to your promises too. Answer your emails promptly. Put useful information on your website. All that
exactly.
Well, so if we round that up, 5 things we touched on today were mobile and all the impacts of mobile in 2018, voice search and using voice, people like Amazon and other big players coming in and disrupting your market, making more of your own platform, making it actually work for you, and getting a good sense on how to use social versus your website, how to use channels versus what is something you own your platform, and then finally just refocusing on your fundamentals. Does that pretty much wrap everything up?
Yeah, that's pretty good. And if you get these things right in 2018, I think your businesses will grow solidly, and they'll prepare you for the future, and you'll be protected from some of this disruption that's happening.
Yeah, well, it's a big lengthy episode, people. Sorry about that, but this was one where I think it's important to set the ground right.
Absolutely. And it's going to drive a lot of. Yeah, and I'm sure, no doubt, we'll continue to touch and expand on some of these points on further episodes.
Yeah, and look, we've been getting great feedback on Facebook and email and things like that. But I would ask all our listeners that are out there. We want to make sure that this is relevant to everyone that we're putting these messages out to. Please send us questions. You can do it on Facebook, Twitter, email, on the website. Send them to us, YouTube, if you're watching it there. Yeah. Let us know what you'd like us to talk about in upcoming episodes. We've obviously got things lined up, but we'd love to hear from that. If we've got more guests coming up in future episodes, we've got our next guest is a cool guy that's going to talk about optimizing SEO for e-commerce, which is going to be really cool. We hope you enjoyed Brendan, our legal whiz, a few weeks back. But yeah, let us know. Let us know what you'd like to hear. We'd love to hear from you. Yeah, we've got more guests we're lining up through the year.
Feel free to share it too if you think the podcast can help people. We'd love you to share it as well. Get people listening. And what do you reckon, Daryl? Is that it for today?
I reckon.
That's awesome. Hey, so if you want to be notified when the next episode goes live, then please sign up to notifications on our website, which is mybloodywebsitepodcast.com. or subscribe to the podcast at iTunes. And if you enjoyed the podcast, then please leave a review in iTunes. Reviews help people find us. And the more people find us, the more people we can help and who will enjoy the content. So please, if you like the content, leave us a positive review, or any review for that matter. And we hope to see you next week when we'll continue this chat about My Bloody Website. It's goodbye from me.
That's goodbye from him.